podcast, killing everybody, taking dog tags. Dog, this is awesome. It's Optimus Prime and your quadrant and talking, and you got that. I was in a mind when I crafted this. The Dungeon Master's raps with a dash of sick. I dash like Sonic Mad, not a pacifist, but pacifist. The tracks when I'm rapping, kids. We the last of us. The master race, take him with a master hand. It's cancerous. I hit him with the master sword, and sure I make a nice sword, but I wonder how four guys make a Triforce.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force podcast. You're listening to episode number 132. As you can see, we're all dressed up and ready for every single one of you guys watching us.
I actually think this is 133.
I thought it was 132.
I think 132 is the other day.
Really? You're going to ruin this
Already riveting discussion. 132 or 133?
Yeah, it's 133.
Oh, the stream is going to be wrong and I can't fix it.
I was just about to say, you've been hitting it out of the park with since we started doing it live too.
It's because we rushed it. We rushed it. We were too busy trying to look nice and, so everything else fell by the way.
Too vain.
Right. It's all about the looks, baby.
I think they wrote a song about us.
So you guys, as you guys can see, if you're watching live, we have a brand new setup, overlay, whatever you want to say. Thanks to Beardy Locks for putting that together for us. It looks fan-fucking-tastic. It looks better than what I put together. I'm like over here looking at it. It's great. So I'm going to introduce everybody on the podcast. Of course, my name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I'm your host, just like every week. Chira is back with us.
Hi.
Hi, Chira. How's this sickness?
I don't ever want to experience it again. It's bad.
Dom is here.
How's it going?
Hi, Dom. And then we have Lee, who is also known as Carrot Colossus from the Oz LOL podcast, joining us this week.
Hello. Good to be back.
Oh, I'm happy to have you. That's right. If you guys remember 15 or so episodes ago. I say that, it feels like it's a really long time, but when you do 2 episodes a week, it was like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So
no, it's great to be back. Good to be joining you guys.
That's right. We heard you went on like a 6-week holiday or something, and
yeah. Went to Japan for 6 weeks and went all over Japan, and that was pretty incredible. So
you still got content out during that time. Good for you.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about sitting on a train going between cities in Japan is you got lots of time to edit it and edit you do. So yeah, there's no shortage of me sitting around in front of a computer. But no, I was able to play much League while I was over there. Well, none at all. So it's good to be back and actually playing some League and podcasting and all of that.
And talking about it and loving it.
That's it.
Fuck Japan, I just want to go home and play League.
Yeah. Well, the weather in Japan was much better than in Australia. So it's about, I think it's going to be about 84 degrees Fahrenheit for you Americans.
He went today, Fahrenheit with it too. This is great.
I did. Google. I tell you, Google. So, back in Japan, it was like 7 degrees Celsius or less. I think there was a whole 3 weeks where we didn't even see 0 degrees.
Even Celsius. If it was 7 degrees Fahrenheit, that would still be warmer than where I am.
Okay. Well, I envy you because we're currently in a bit of a hot spell. So, anyway, Australian weather is pretty hot.
I've heard everything in Australia is awful, though. I mean, you got bugs and animals and things killing people and giant kangaroos. I don't know. I think.
The thing about Australia is everything that's small is deadly, and everything that's big is pretty harmless. So,
so you're harmless is what you're telling us.
Yeah. So kangaroos are fine, but you're just basically you're gonna sit down on the toilet, something's gonna bite you, and you're pretty much gonna die on the spot. So
you don't even see your death coming. That's depressing.
That's it.
I'm never visiting you or Australia. It's gonna be awful.
Oh, wait, man, they have good beer.
But the women are good looking. The women are good looking.
Good looking women and those accents, buddy.
That's true.
You might catch me there. I don't know. I'm a
little
pale.
And good beer. You should come for the beer. Lots of beer.
I love beer.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh, all right.
Oh, God. Okay, so let's get on with some news, the podcast. Actually, I'm going to set with the biggest news that we have for all. Lee, do you want to introduce the news? Because I think you're the most excited about this. Yes,
I'm very excited. So the big news is that the Oslo podcast is teaming up with the Trinity Force podcast. T-Force is sponsoring us from now on. Yes. Very exciting. Because, and I say that as a fan as well, because, I've been listening to the show for almost as long as it's been on. It's got me into League of Legends in a way, a lot more in-depth level. And the Oslo podcast came together because Soter, former host, passed a tweet of mine onto Steve, to Clerical Error, one of the guys on the show. And that basically was that's how it started. So Trinity Force has been a part of our show, from the start. And so it's really exciting for us to partner up with you guys. And if you go to oslo.trinityforcepodcast.com, you will see the brand new website.
That's right. It's still a work in progress, but it's
still a work in progress.
And out
there. But it's fantastic. So I'm really excited. The other guys are really excited. to partner up with you guys, and looking forward to a very good, productive relationship of League of Legends.
As long as you keep
Wow,
producing content, we're happy.
Oh yeah,
I was gonna say, you
that's
don't know
the
us
goal.
at all. We have a really low bar.
My
Well,
big-
obviously
Come on,
you've
let me
got us to
cheer
partner
up.
up.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how I
Going
got
on
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Adam's hosting, it's pretty easy to tell the bar is low. So,
Yes, yes.
He fits right in.
welcome to Australia. That's how we roll.
He's up here with his pumping his chest and stuff. Yeah, so those of you guys want to know what this whole sponsorship means. It basically means they continue to make their podcast. We don't really have a hand in it besides making sure they post it every week. And they're going to post over at ozlol.trinityforcepodcast.com. And, you know, it's a way to get a podcast community started with people that are interested in League of Legends. And as we continue to grow Trinity Force, that we have a bunch of stuff we're working on in the back end, and we're going to bring more content for you guys, hopefully. That's our plan. So hopefully you guys will have Trinity Force every day of the week, or some subset of Trinity Force, but I can't say anything more than that. So
You said
excited.
too
Thanks for joining us. And what's that, Dom?
You've said too much.
I've said too much. Oh no. Well, 3 podcasts a week so far. I think that's quite an undertaking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
A lot of
That's
work.
no slouch job.
Good thing I don't have to put it together.
Yeah. My job just got worse.
Yeah.
So yes, thanks for joining up, and hopefully we brought you on as I wouldn't say you're not even an ambassador. We just brought you on because DeClaude is sick, so you just seem like the
Oh,
right
well.
guy.
Good. Fine. I'll just take your crumbs, your sloppy seconds.
Table scraps.
That's right. So more to talk about TrinityForcePodcast.com. You guys can go check that out. You can go find all of the podcasts. There's 10 up there, and there's the archives, everything. Don't forget to check that out. The store is store.trinityforcepodcast.com, stream.trinityforcepodcast.com. You guys can check us out every Monday and Wednesday live at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. For Lee, that is like 9 a.m.
Yep.
That's right.
It's not bad. Basically, get up, eat breakfast, and sit in front of the screen with a bowl of cereal. You know, it's a good life.
Yeah, played. So yeah, guys, don't forget to check us out. Go check out OzLOL Podcast. You can go find them. Type in OzLOL Podcast on iTunes. You can subscribe there. You can subscribe to us, Trinity Force Podcast. We're on Stitcher and iTunes as well as they are. And other than that, that is the 7 minutes worth of news for this week. I made it under 10. Everyone give me a round of applause for being the best host NA. See, Lee gets
Go
it.
flap.
So, yesterday, not last week. Yesterday we talked about ranked 5s and how you guys can get better at ranked 5s and all that. So hopefully you found that discussion very good. We've talked about solo queue in the past. And with that came a ton of questions about League of Legends and how to play certain characters and whatnot. So this episode is going to be completely and totally dedicated to the mailbag. We want Lee to lead the discussion here and make sure that everybody gets to talk about what we're talking about, about League of Legends. So we're going to jump right into that and start answering listener questions, and let's hope you guys learned something. So
This one's
Jay,
long.
yeah, thanks, Tom. Jay Woos, I like to be long-winded. Have you not noticed this? It's 133 episodes. I am very long-winded when it comes to the intro.
No, I was talking about this question.
The
It's like I
question's really
couldn't, I
long.
couldn't figure out a good way to tone this
But-
down without losing the point. So
But while we're on this, Adam is long-winded too. We can't lose sight of the real thing.
That's how you become a podcast host. I know
Right.
because I am one. So
You just
I
keep
sympathize,
talking.
Adam. That's it.
All right, here we go. Jay Woos writes in, and bear with me as I read this. The first time I saw Yasuo's kit, my immediate thought was that Riot finally created a melee carry that can be effectively played in the bot lane. Now that Yasuo has been out for a few weeks, I have yet to see anyone attempt to carry bot with him. If you pair him with certain supports, I don't see why a skilled player couldn't pull it off. Imagine this. A zoning support like Zyra or Heimer to allow him to farm, or match him with a Taric that can range stun. Yasuo could constantly harass the stun carry by bouncing through a creep wave, trading damage, win wall, and bounce out. The only obvious caveat would be your support's understanding and cooperation. So he wants to know, why do we not see melee carries in the bottom lane, really?
The real issue with melee carries in the bottom lane is always going to be how vulnerable they are to the ranged opponents. That's not to say the strategy can't work. Wasn't it Curse Academy that was using it a lot in Salt League? We have no idea. Okay, so one of the teams was using it a lot during the NACL over the off season, but I don't know. I can't remember which team was doing that. But like in solo queue, the reality is if you're up against, I mean, you could succeed with it, but a marksman that knows what they're doing is just going to keep punishing you and making your life more and more difficult as you try to CS. And Yasuo was very much a farm heavy, like a gold dependent champion.
Absolutely.
I think part of the issue is that even if you are really successful at farming and using your abilities and your support using their abilities, there's still going to be significant windows where you can be harassed. So you can't spam. Your support can't spam their abilities all day long. That if they have to spam their abilities to protect Yasuo, then they're basically going to run out of mana, and then you're going to have to leave the lane because you just won't be able to withstand the harass. So, I mean, yes, particularly in solo queue, you can do anything. Like, if you're good enough, particularly low ranked, solo queue, you can do anything. But it's going to be very difficult because you're going to have to be not only CSing well, but you're also going to have to be managing all your abilities perfectly and your support managing all the abilities perfectly to basically stop from being harassed constantly. So,
right.
Yeah, it's theoretically possible, but I don't know if normal people have the brain power to be able to do that easily.
You have to do a ton of things right, whereas all they have to do is point and click.
Yeah, they just do what they normally do.
Right.
Right, that's why you see ranged champions, for the most part, winning out against some melees. Like Yasuo has a big problem right now in lane where if you're a melee champion versus Yasuo, you get dumpstered on. Like, Yasuo can't trade effectively versus another melee champion until he gets some items. But when he's against a ranged champion, he does fairly well, especially in the middle lane. That's why you put him there. Because of the constant harass, because of the constant shield he's getting, he can constantly, on his own, without the worry of another person being in that lane. Like, everybody's like, well, you can put these two people together and it works, but you have to remember there's two other people in the bottom lane the entire time. There's a Thresh, there's a Leona, there's a constant, Annie. And Yasuo is squishy. You get caught with one of those things, like you guys said, if you're not playing perfectly, and you're dead. Now, this does lead to thinking about kill lanes, though, because we saw in Season 2, when the meta was farm for 25, 30 minutes, that people were trying to push the mid game early by running, J4 Leona bot, and that would completely shut down the AD carry and the support because they were getting kills while they were doing it. And when you're running a melee AD carry, they're gold dependent, so they need those kills. Farm is not going to be enough against two people. The other day, Chira, you and Wrecker ran Lee Sin Talon, right?
Oh, that was a fun game.
Well, I think this is a good conversation point for you because you can tell us firsthand what it's like bringing two melees down there.
We ran just a really aggressive squishy because I went Assassin Lee Sin, double melee comp bot lane, and we made this mistake of, and by we, I mean I made the mistake of saying, fuck it, I'm just going to all in at level 1. Yeah, it happened. Actually, nobody died.
I am not surprised that happened.
No, nobody died, but yeah. So it was fine, and we had a ton of fun. Like, I mean, it was a blast because it was Wrecker and I just
being stupid.
Idiots.
You wanted to do something stupid. That's what was said before we got there.
That's what happened. We were just gonna hard random. But the big issue is. I believe it was Leona Caitlyn that we were playing into, or it was Leona.
It was Leona Caitlyn.
Ooh, that's not gonna go well.
Yeah, it was okay. It was Leona Caitlyn because I was thinking the whole time, like, out of all the AD carries that we could have gone against, she's probably the safest one for us, like considering trap and everything.
That's like always what happens. Anytime you want to try something really offbeat and different, you just end up against the worst matchup possible for you.
Mm-hmm. And like, we actually had some success. We had another friend who was playing Katarina, and my buddy TJ, and I mean, we ended up getting a lot of kills. I think Wrecker and I both at one point we had like 7 kills apiece, and this is there were about 50 kills before like the 25-minute mark. It was a bloodbath down there. It was just bloody.
Well, see, and when they did this, you also have to think about who else is going to be in the team comp, because they told me to jungle. Like, well, there's not a better time for you to learn the jungle because you're going to have to camp some lane and make it work. And I said, okay, well, I could pick J4 and be that, initiator. I could pick Vi and be an initiator, or I could pick someone like Kale who can get you the hell out of trouble. And so I picked Kale, and it worked.
The ult helped a ton. In fact, that probably kept us in the game for the most part, as long as it did, because we had 3 assassins and we could just ult one when we got in a fight.
Right.
We did lose just because their AD carry got a ton of farm, and we spent probably the entire time roaming their jungle trying to kill people.
Well, you guys.
So,
granted, everyone was playing stupid, but you have to even if no one was playing stupid and you ran that perfectly, there is that window, kind of like when we were talking about in season 3 with that Ezreal mid or that
You have to make
280
it work.
carry. There's a window where it will work fantastically because assassins in the mid game still do lots of damage.
Well,
and then there's like there's a window. It's lots of damage, a little bit of damage, and then tons of damage. You know. in the
And
game.
Wrecker and I were in agreement. Leona was the scariest person on the enemy team for us because like we didn't do any damage to her in the laning phase. When if we screwed up at all, like if he went in and she had not used anything or whatever, she was all over him and he was probably dead. It was like hard CCs into that comp.
Were you guys doing ranked or blind pick?
blind.
We were
No.
doing
Or yeah,
It
a
was
draft or
draft,
blind
yeah.
pick, I should
Draft.
say.
it was draft.
Okay.
But things had been picked before. Things had been
Right.
Sure.
And
sure.
we also went double not Targons but double relic shield just for fun. But
Well,
we
that,
didn't
make,
really,
that makes a lot of sense, actually.
we also didn't get much use out of relic shield again because we didn't really spend any time farming. We were just going for kills from the moment we got in there. We
that's
probably
legit.
would have been better off just
It's a rookie
starting.
mistake.
Right. Well, bringing this back to
Starting
Yasuo,
I
if
hate
you
to
look
see it
at
happen.
Yasuo in the same light, when you bring melee AD carries bottom lane, it becomes a kill lane. Your whole goal isn't to farm like you would with a ranged carry because you can't farm effectively. You can't be safe while you're doing it. Because like Chira said, you get right clicked on and you die.
Yep.
So it's going to be a kill lane. And you have to be able to turn that around in kills. And Yasuo is not going to get kills unless he gets someone popped up.
And,
he can
and the
use
problem
the
is
CC.
they can make you pay. They can just harass anytime you want to really go in. And this isn't, I mean, for Yasuo, he has the shield, so it's kind of okay for him a little bit more than somebody else. But we did not have a fun time farming at all with Leona being able to zone. And then basically Caitlyn being untouchable just between 50 caliber net and her traps. So like,
And also there's-
again, what's up?
Oh, sorry, go. Oh no, you go. You finish.
Yeah, it's the thing like you have to do so many things right and hope that they just play normally. And if they play into it and take advantage of little things that go wrong, you're just screwing yourself over. And at one point we were just shoved up on the turret, and they just kept sending Gragas bot, and there was nothing we could do about it. But yeah, it's just there's so many things that can go wrong, and you have to do a ton right to really make it pay off.
And you have to
Go ahead.
even beyond the window that Adam said with the mid game and the damage and whatnot. But there really becomes a point where your lack of farm becomes a limitation because Caitlyn, when she's got 200 farm, even if she's got no kills, she's still going to be scary. If you've got sort of maybe 2 or 3 kills in the early game, but then no farm, you're basically gonna lose out
It's a
because you
wash.
just won't have the gold.
Yeah.
It's and Caitlyn will continue to farm
There's
and
your
continue to
vamp
farm and
scepter
continue to
boost.
farm and where when you get to the mid game, it's not easy to farm. I mean, you can do it, but it becomes a serious trade-off if you have to move to another lane
Well,
to
and
catch up on the farm. And there's only so much you can farm in the jungle. So
If you're spending that much time farming in a side lane too, and they're grouping and pushing down objectives, you're still losing. So
yeah, that's it.
I'm trying to think.
So do it if you're good, but yeah, most people would.
I like the Tarek suggestion if you're going to do that. And it's less so much the stun because that's a pretty short duration now, but Tarek's, bonus armor to allies and then the heal that he has kind of are going to help you a little bit on the limitations. You're like the issue, just the harass and everything that you're going to eat. It's going to help mitigate that a bit. I think I like Janna with Yasuo specifically. I don't know if I like her with anybody else, but I think
what
I like
about
Janna.
Nami?
No, I don't think I like that.
I was thinking more of somebody that can capitalize on mistakes or
I mean, I like Thresh and Leona obviously are
Right.
good candidates in that. I'm just sort of even Blitzcrank I think could do it. I don't think I like Alistar.
no.
Well, I love Alistar. I love Alistar always, but I don't think I really want to play Alistar in that lane.
I think if you're gonna do this, you run somebody like Annie, and then obviously Thresh.
Why
and
do
Leona.
I always forget about her?
I don't know. I think you run somebody like that can zone and allow him to farm. Like you need that power spike. You could probably get a level 2 or level 3 kill with Yasuo if you do it right, and you have the Annie to couple with it. And if you get that kill, and now you can start zoning and farming, but zoning, you're zoning the enemy team from being able to do anything. that's when you're going to start snowballing hard, and that's when it's going to work. So there's just too many variables to make it work, and I think it has to be one of those like perfect storm, or you have to be very confident in how you play that.
You really have to make it pay off early, or you're not going to have a fun time.
So that's hopefully, Jay Woos, we answered your question there. If go ahead, feel free to follow up if you've had any success running Yasuo on the bottom lanes. We do want to hear about it. If you're in chat right now, tell us about Yasuo on the bottom lane as well. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the next question from Nicholas. He writes in and asks, "Is it ever wrong to ask for the support to support whoever is doing the best? Is that disrespectful at all, or do the ends justify the means as far as doing everything we can to win?"
No, frankly, the support always should be supporting who's doing the best. This is assuming that you're kind of past the early laning phase and you're good and into mid game. If your AD carry has been struggling, odds are good he or she's not going to be able to contribute much in team fights. And you peeling for him or her, like, it's a few extra auto attacks of damage and everything. But if you have like a top laner or a mid or something who has just been killing it, literally and figuratively, yeah, you do everything you can to keep that person alive, because that.
And Dom goes out.
And Dom kills it. I think I have backup audio running tonight. Dom makes a good point. If it goes into mid-game, like past 10, 12 minutes, and your AD carry has died a little bit, or the tower is thinking about going down shortly, or whatever it may be, it's not a bad idea to start roaming as a support. You can
Sorry about that.
You're fine. You can definitely roll up to mid. Or, excuse me, roam. I said roll. You can roam up to mid. You can roam through the jungle. You can help the jungler take it out. And that's something that can also happen when you're ahead. Like, if you have an AD carry and your AD carry's winning, and you think that AD carry is, competent enough to 2v or 1v2, you can start roaming the other lanes.
This actually happened. I was doing with a plat buddy of mine just the other day, and he lost a ton of his placements and got put in like silver 1. So we were just kind of trolling around. And I was playing top lane, I believe Renekton into Darius, and he was playing Blitzcrank support for a Jinx. I don't remember who he was against, but they had a Leona support, and they got.
You want that.
Well, they ended up getting 3 or 4 kills on the enemy AD carry in the first 10 minutes. So right after that happened, and basically the AD carry, like our team's AD carry, was a full item and a half up. He just started roaming everywhere and just pulling people just to piss off everybody on the enemy team. And they got so tilted that they just gave up at 20 minutes because he was everywhere they did not want him to be.
I love it.
So, I mean, I'm all down for roaming supports if your laner can fend for themselves or stay ahead 1v2.
Was it the season? It was the season 2 World Finals when Dyrus happened to tell someone like Dignitas they were going to run roaming Taric.
No, they told then CLGEU that Dignitas had been running a lot of roaming Taric.
Oh,
and
right.
That totally screwed Dignitas' early game. And CLG, they tried to play it off like, no, Taric's go missing all the time in Europe and Korea, so this wasn't a big deal. But it's like, no, if you were expecting Dignitas to do something else and they broke out a roaming Taric, it was kind of
like obvious. Oh, the Taric's gonna be here. Everyone ward up more.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
I mean, one of the things I sort of think about with this question is you got to make sure. I mean, I play a lot of Leona, and Leona's the kind of support that she doesn't always help if you don't play it right. If jumping in there and stunning people doesn't always sort of fit necessarily. So you got to make sure that with the support that you have, if you're going to do that, that you understand what the jungler or you understand what the mid or you understand what the top lane wants you to do, and you don't start messing with their pattern, because that's just going to add to frustration. Obviously, in a ranked 5 situation with your mates, not a big deal. But
if you're playing Leona and you hit level 2 and you don't have blood on your mind, like you're kind of missing the point of a champion.
Yeah, and so that sort of adds a certain degree of aggressiveness that other people may not want in their lane or something like that. So you just gotta be aware that in solo queue you need to make sure your expectations align with other people's expectations, so you don't end up frustrating them. When you're supposed to be helping. So that's the only thing I would add to that.
Yeah, you got to keep morale high. Tell everyone they did a good job. Keep going. It's I think that's it. That's good.
Are we just going with the backup audio from here on in, or should I restart Audacity?
Nah, let's go backup audio.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
The Flash King.
We still love you, Dom.
I don't love you at all, Dom. I don't love you.
I deserve that.
I love how Dom's things over here is jury rigged with the rubber band. And
I found out what the issue is, and there's one measure I can take to prevent it from happening again, but even that I think is unlikely. Like I just felt the static, little static shot go, and the second I felt that, my mic went off.
Oh, of course.
And it's just because the air is so dry because it's so cold right now.
You need a humidifier, buddy.
I do, but they're expensive, and you don't pay me very much.
It's because that's $100K
I
a year. It's not mine. No, that's $100K. Damn it, it's $100K.
Man, I got debts. I got addictions. I got medical, probably.
The best would be if
Hey
his
Dom.
mic went out again.
Hey Dom. Talk
What?
to HR. I don't care.
Oh.
The Flash King writes in, are there any champions that you think desperately need some touches to their kits, just to make them more appealing enough to play every once in a while in the current state of the game? I don't think there are any champions that need touches to their kits to make them viable. I think there are champions that need kit or reworks or overhauls.
I think that it's two different questions though. Like we've sort of talked about reworks, and Riot's always talking about champions they need to rework. But I mean, like Anivia is a good point, but she got recently touched up, and I think this question came before her.
I think it did.
Her little tuning adjustments. I think Annie is still a little overtuned, just with the like a ranged champion like that played in the support role really shouldn't have that level 2 kill potential the way that she does, which is really what makes her so terrifying.
Well, doesn't Leona have that level 2 kill potential as well?
But Leona's not ranged.
Oh, I see what you. Okay, the range, yes.
Like Annie can zone you and then can just decide to kill you, and that's
Right.
that's what makes her so frightening. Leona can't really zone you that well.
Right.
Like Leona can zone you, but then if Leona decides to act on that because you get out of line, Leona's going in, and
Leona
sort
puts
of,
herself
She's
in
going to be
danger.
overextended.
there are risks to Leona taking an action, and Annie has no risk. I don't know who like.
I mean, it depends what you mean by once in a while, because I mean, I think every champ has that sort of potential.
I mean, I think they're all playable right now.
Well, here's a good one, and
Yeah.
I've talked about Hecarim in the past, and right now, the current state of the jungle with the way Hecarim is, he has a very poor early clear, and I think they either need to touch his early clear, or they need to start touching his mid game power, or they need to make up for that early deficit somewhere else, because right now, if you have, like Chira and I talked about this yesterday, I'm going to take a point that Chira said, you pretty much have to build a Triforce on him, or Spirit of the Elder Lizard, to make your gank successful, because you have to be doing that extra damage. This is pre-6, because he doesn't have a great gank, and his mana pool is pretty small as well,
not
without
good.
blue buff.
I mean, it's like you use his W like 5 times in your
Right, and you're spamming Q in between
Yep.
that to try to get like Sheen procs or whatever it may be if you have that, and then you're not tanky. While there's other junglers like Vi who have, she gets a shield on when she uses her autos, which automatically makes her more tanky than anybody else.
She's HP shred.
And she has an HP threat. She has an armor shred. And she's shredding everything. So that's why she's fantastic. And then her engage is just as good, if not better. It's better than Hecarim's because it follows people, right? Like Hecarim, you have to place it somewhere. So Hecarim, in that sense, I think he needs some kind of tuning out of the jungle, and it's either base stats need to be bumped up a little bit, or damage on Q or lifesteal on W or something needs to be fixed. I don't know exactly what he needs, but I know by playing him that he needs that love.
And I mean, there's other champions that like
Rise comes to mind.
A lot of Rise's issue though are like the changes to Banshee's Veil and a lot of the stuff removing mana, with like big key parts of his kit. They need to make some changes for him because he'll never be back in the position he was in before unless they do.
Well, and he didn't need to be like that strong and everything. I thought he was in good shape, and then they changed Banshee's Veil, and that hurt him. That hit him surprisingly hard.
The Nasus of AP mids.
Well, they also started to tune Tyr, and that started to hit him, quite a bit because Tyr didn't start stacking as quickly as it did, and that's another reason why, like Jace, for example, Jace started getting hit because of that, and Kha'Zix for a while before they changed how his evolves work.
Corki's another one of those. Corki, I would like to see get changed a little bit so he's not as affected by item balancing. Like, it's so weird how Corki goes into and out of like power stages, like the power stages of Corky are all tied to Trinity Force.
Right.
They're not really tied to anything Corky is or isn't doing. And I think that's not really a good spot for a champion to be.
Sure. I'm just trying to think. But like, Ezreal is kind of in that place too. Ezreal still gets more play because he can do damage and his Q is applying on hit effects. So even if Trinity Force gets a little bit of a nerf, he's still somewhat viable and he has escapes.
He's safe. He's super safe.
I mean, just looking at win rates, Jesus, despite her popularity, LeBlanc has the second worst win rate in the game. Like you see her all
breaking her
Oh
out.
yeah, no, she's a really difficult champion, but she gets played so much in LCS that she has the second worst win rate.
I'm not surprised by that at all, though, because if you've ever played against LeBlanc, either they're amazing and roaming and killing everything, or they're terrible. There's no middle ground. Have you ever seen a LeBlanc just do okay?
Riot's been talking about Diana a lot. She needs a little bit of attention so that she, like you look at Diana and you kind of think she should be a fighter of some sort. Mm-hmm. And right now her main play is like a tanky assassin type thing, and that's really weird. Maokai could probably use a little bit of love.
Maokai needs to be touched up.
I know. See, here's it's a funny thing with Maokai. If they start like changing mana ratios or making them lower, suddenly he becomes a fantastic top laner or mid laner.
He becomes invincible. I mean, that passive. How many times have I won stupid top lane matchups just because of that?
Right.
Passive. I love that passive.
And I guess that's where the reworks come into it. Because I mean, there's quite a few champs. Like, I mean, Tarek's a good one that I think is a favorite of mine, but he sort of needs a rework. I mean, if you can upgrade his power, but then he becomes a problem again, and then that's what we sort of saw with when they redid his passive the last time. So there's quite a few champs where if you could tune them up, but then they start to become problematic, and that's why they have to rework their kit. So
right,
it's challenging.
Sorry, those guys watching live. We just lost Dom, so I know the overlay looks a little bit funny right now.
And another character, what they were just talking about the other day was Shaco. There's that big talk about.
I missed that one. What were they talking about?
There was
Shaco?
a huge talk about they want to basically rework Shaco because, like, there's just a lot of issues. Either, like, people play him wrong. If he gets too ahead, he just kills everything. The boxes, the way they work, isn't fun to play against. That kind of stuff.
Right. But Shaco kind of has that Scion flavor going on, where you really don't know how to build him. Because E has an AP ratio, W has an AP ratio, but
his
gets
E does
crit.
magic damage. It's
So how do you build the guy, and that's what you got to go with that the Scion thing there. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question while we wait for Dom to come back, and hopefully he comes back so I can fix the overlay. Mm-hmm. I've never had to do this. This is actually pretty funny right now because usually if we're doing the MP3 and the podcast drops out and be like, all right guys, we're going to wait and take care of it. And now I don't have a backup plan for when somebody drops out live. Oh wait.
Learn on the fly.
Everything.
Now everything is all screwed up. No!
There you do. The perfect podcast. It's been spoiled.
Oh, God damn it, Dom. Let's add him to the call again. So
Ruins
I'm keep
everything.
adding him. I'm gonna add Josh to the call next just to put him in here, and so I have somebody in that other
Filler.
Hey, he has what, one show of experience
He's
now?
got podcast experience, right?
Yeah, he's been on once. I hope he shows up in like a fucking cutoff. We're all here in.
Josh, I hope you're ready to jump in here because that might be happening. All right, let's move on to the next question. The Flash King writes, are there any champions that you think...
No, we already did that one.
We just did that.
Yeah. Scars writes, I have a cousin who plays competitive StarCraft, and I suggested that he try LOL. He replied with, I'm just going to wait until Blizzard releases their MOBA. I was wondering if you guys think we shouldn't worry about Blizzard or if they might sweep up Riot's potential fans. I know LOL is doing great, but I'd like to see the community continue to grow the way it has been. So thoughts, guys?
I think Double Lift has already commented on this when he went to... He might have been WCG. Travis interviewed him, and he basically said his view was it's just too much of a casual game. Like, it's not going to have the same competitive draw.
I agree with that.
Because basically the whole team has the same level. There's no real potential for individual skill, or to really factor into it. And it's a really snowbally game because the whole team gets to level 6, and so they're all in you at level 5. So I think that's probably a pretty reasonable assessment.
You also have to look at Blizzard's track record with a lot of these games. StarCraft became as big as it did because it was phenomenal and it was an amazing game, and it was more of like a fan drive to become like a big esport because of all the skill involved and all that stuff. Whereas like WoW, they had like big WoW tournaments, but comparative to
they had a big WoW tournament just now, and it's the competitive. The spectator mode sucks.
Yeah, well, then that's because Blizzard has some issues with. They don't make it really easy to do any of the esports kind of stuff with a lot of their games for the most part. Like they expect Riot pumps a lot of money into esports. I mean, that's just, they even talk about it. They don't really even, they say they don't even make that much of a profit off of esports, and they pump a ton of money into it. And whether that's true or not, whatever, I'll take their word for it. But like Blizzard would make you pay to have their game at their tournament. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I mean that's. I don't think they're gonna put that much of a like actual esports kind of.
I watched the tournament that they had
played.
I think every week or every couple weeks or whatever it may be, they come and they show off. What is it called? Is it Heroes of New Earth? No, not what am I saying? No, it's It's Blizzard Heroes of the Storm. Thank you. I don't know why I called it fucking New Earth. You can kick me off as the host right now.
Yeah, man. Shows what you know about MOBAs.
Yeah.
For those of you guys that don't know how this game works, it is shared experience. It's shared experience, and from what I can tell, there's no items.
There are no items.
Yeah, but they're objectives. The one I watched was a mine, and everybody went to their lanes. You put either two top and 3 bottom, or whatever it was, and then the mines opened, and people went into the mines and could still farm and share the experience that they're farming. But you had objectives, and when you don't have a way for the team to get ahead besides besides how the champions are played, how overpowered the champions are, the champions' abilities, like there's no way for you to get an item that's going to make you win a lane matchup. And what happens if Janna isn't as powerful as Hellscream or something? Then that lane matchup is a complete and total wash.
Right. And
you also... Sorry, you got you.
The games are going to be they're supposed to be like 15 to 20 minutes anyway. So the games are going to be really, really short, which who knows if that's going to be great or not for a spectator perspective anyway. Just because I don't know how much of a investment a viewer would be in the game if they're going to be that short. But go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, coming back on the esports side of things, you think about Valve, because I think it's the same sort of issue a little bit with Dota. That what incentive for Blizzard and Valve is there to invest a lot of money in esports when they're already making tons of money in other stuff? Blizzard has World of Warcraft, they've still got StarCraft. Valve is making a ton off everything they sell. So as opposed to Riot, who have everything on the line with League, that's it. And esports is a big part of that, and so they've got a lot of incentive to invest. And not just invest, but invest wisely, to create these tournaments and all this sort of stuff. So I guess it's that's going to change the way that Blizzard even treat Heroes of the Storm when it comes out. They may not want to push it as a big thing, an esports thing. It might actually be, from their own perspective, just a niche sort of interesting thing for people who like the Blizzard IP and like kind of, want something a bit more casual. And I think it might be this. Its main competition is probably going to be this Infinite Crisis game. I think think Infinite Crisis, right. the DC Dominion, for lack of a better word, ripoff. I think Heroes of the Storm, from what I understand, they're going to be very similar games. As they're more pitched at the casual gamer. They're not as sort of highly competitive. So
that's the way Blizzard said. They just wanted a game where every character from all of their universes could just come and beat the hell out of each other. That's a cool thing. Why the hell isn't Tyrael fighting Arthas and shit like that?
Yeah.
I mean that's a great concept. I'll definitely be playing it. Will I be jumping ship to become only Heroes of the Storm player? No.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I love the Blizzard games.
Well, it's the competitive aspect and the in depth, how in depth League is. Heroes of the Storm might become just as in depth as League of Legends. We don't know yet, but in my opinion, without items and jungle camps and ways to outplay the opponent, besides there being, objectives that you're going for, You're gonna. I think it's almost too hard to tune.
Well, you also have to look at like if the entire team is getting the experience. I don't know about you, but sometimes it's awesome to just watch one person take control and manhandle a team of 5 people.
Right.
I mean,
Faker?
So yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example. You just like one dude imposing his will on the entire enemy team. And if there's no items, there's no like big advantage in you doing extremely well. You're not even going to get that kind of a showing, I guess, from that kind of game. Whereas in League, somebody comes out of lane is massive and scary as hell. They can make a huge difference. If one guy kicks the shit out of somebody in his lane or whatever it is in that game, the entire team is going to stomp you. I don't know.
Dom, are you
We'll see.
microphone working?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Any thoughts on Hero of the Storm?
There are obviously going to be people who jump ship because it's a Blizzard game. The reality is fanboys are a thing that exists. There are people, console bias has been a thing for how long? There's little reason to, MOBA bias already exists. There's little reason to think that the same won't happen with Blizzard's MOBA. Whether or not it's going to be a big competitor, I think really depends on how much Blizzard is willing to invest in it. Historically, if I recall correctly, they haven't balanced too much around the competitive aspect of the game. And if it doesn't have the highest level of competition in mind, then it's not going to feel like the same level of product as League of Legends or Dota 2.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that about them not balancing, because they tried to do that with Burning Crusade in World of Warcraft, and they tried to balance Arena around that. But then once they started doing the live spectator stuff and realized that they don't have a way to, because there's way more going on in in
the
that
way
type of game.
The way I've always put it to people is if you're actually playing an arena in WoW and you're on a great team or whatever, it's really fun and it's a great experience. But when you're watching it and all you're seeing are just spells go, a ton of flashy spell animations and stuff,
Right.
it's really, really hard unless you know
Unless you played
everything extremely well to even grasp what's going on, especially because there's not exactly, for the most part, I don't know if they
But
changed
I'm
it or
not
whatever.
I'm not even necessarily talking about balancing in the game. Blizzard doesn't, unless I'm mistaken, Blizzard really doesn't invest a lot in its competitive scene.
No, they typically
Like
don't.
the StarCraft 2 Pros are StarCraft 2 Pros, and the game might get balanced because of that. But it's not like Blizzard tries to have a heavy presence at where its games are getting played.
Sure.
And Valve and Riot are both doing that for their respective MOBAs, and that's really what's separating them from the competition. And I to a degree, I do think a lot of esports in the future, if companies have a game that catches on as an esport, I think they're going to have to start having a presence where their title is involved if they want it to be, if they have designs on it becoming as successful as League and Dota.
The other thing, sorry, you get it on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you think about player loyalty, beyond the actual affection people have for the game, League of Legends actually generally involves money. I don't know about you guys, but I've invested a fair bit in the actual game monetarily.
Yeah.
Please.
I know, free-to-play game. And
That's how they
that
get
has
you.
and that has an effect on if I think about, heck, even moving a region, if I want to start an account in NA because I want to play with you guys, for example, I'd have to grind up all the IP, and I don't really want to have invest extra money into an account that I may not use all the time.
Sure.
That's going to go the same with any other new potential competitor for any big game. Particularly League of Legends, where you've got microtransactions. StarCraft, you pay your $90 or whatever it is to buy the game in the first place, but that's kind of it. League of Legends, they're constantly bringing out new content. You're constantly investing in it. So in terms of getting lots of players over, yes, it works for Heroes of the Storm if there's no microtransactions and it's free to play. But does that actually sort of engender that same loyalty as if you would have money invested in it and all of that? So I guess that's another feature in the whole equation of drawing players into a game, and that becomes the basis for esports and the competitive scene as well. So.
Yeah. Brand loyalty is definitely a thing. There are people who are going to jump ship because it's a Blizzard game. And for that matter, if Blizzard released Warcraft 4, I would absolutely buy that game and play the hell out of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's just the reality. You know, just like I
But
played,
it's- but in terms- but-
RTSs.
I
but
played
that may
pretty
not
much
actually
every
draw you
Mario
in.
Brothers game, you know, and like all the Legend of Zelda games. I enjoy playing those games.
But that isn't to say though that you. I mean, the real thing is whether you stop playing League of Legends in order to only play Warcraft 4 and only podcast on Warcraft 4 and watch it competitively. I mean, that's. I mean, I play. I mean, I'm sure everybody plays other games.
Yeah.
But it's whether they can actually get your main focus to be Heroes of the Storm or something else. You know that, and I think that's a trickier thing to sell than just can they get you to play the game.
For me specifically, I don't think Blizzard's characters are really interesting enough to go to see like this Super Smash Brothers scenario that they're basically setting up. It's not to say that their characters like aren't compelling in one way or another, but their games have like never been so character focused to me, or that I didn't have to do like a ton of research to figure out what the characters are really up to and doing and everything. And part of that is how muddied World of Warcraft just made things in the way that it unfolded. But even then, I couldn't tell you a single main character in StarCraft. Or
Oh, really?
I can tell you so many. And I,
yeah, no,
right now, but I'm not going to
I
because I'm a
played the
huge
first
Blizzard nerd.
StarCraft, but I couldn't tell you a single one of the main characters. Pretty much Warcraft 3 is the only one I could name actual characters from. And
But
so that's
to be
why,
fair,
like,
you
for
know-
me personally, I don't have a lot of.
Well, you are a lore, but that's kind of funny you say that because you're a lore guy. You're the guy who.
No, I am.
introduced me
That's
to
why,
that.
but that's why I'm saying like they're none of their characters really gripped me in a fashion that made me want to invest in them.
And Riot's only really come to that party
Yeah.
really quite recently. You know, it's really in the last sort of year and a half that they've actually done that. And I mean, now we get like the Vi video and stuff like that. But if you look at the lore back when they started, it's not so great. But that's part of that is just because they weren't a very big company. Where now they're a bigger company, they can invest a lot more in, the Freya events and all that sort of stuff. So, I think that's maybe part of it as well. That separates the two.
I think with this discussion, has been fantastic, and it's really interesting that we can, talk about League of Legends and the competitive scene and how other places people are doing it. But I think we're going to wrap this back around to some actual League of Legends talk. And, I'm just trying to figure out which question would be the best to transition to here. So I would probably keep going down the list. We just talked about characters that you can, we talked about lore. We talked about characters that you can identify with, and a lot of people a lot of people have started to identify with Rumble, especially after Balls had played him in season 3. And so Deep Slit writes in talking about Rumble. He goes, my question is about Rumble. I've been playing him a lot recently, and I love him. Landing a good ultimate is just so rewarding, but he doesn't seem to hold up well in this season. I'm not going to stop playing him, so I was hoping you guys could give some advice for the top lane with him.
A lot of his.
So, sorry, I'm gonna just click through here. This question's really funny to me because right around this time it came out, Adam, you and I were talking, and you were like, I think Rumble's kind of the sleeper strong champion in this current meta.
Right.
Now to you, Sean.
I like Rumble a lot. I think he's really good. But my issue with him is that almost every top laner that's commonly picked right now scale as well, if not better than him, farther on in the game. They might not have his AoE presence, which Shyvana almost did up until her recent nerfs. But Rumble used to succeed at being a massive lane bully and winning out trades with proper use of his heating mechanics, his Q, and his shield. With a lot of the stuff, with all the defensive masteries, as well as almost every top laner running a Doran shield now, a lot of that just regular harass from light damage from his Q can just get regened in about 30 seconds.
And see, that's why I
So-
think someone like
Two-
Zach is coming back for that same
Right.
reason.
2 follow-up questions then, or maybe 2 follow-up points. On the PBE right now, the regen masteries to a degree are getting hit and they're getting
And
lessened.
the Doran shield
and
is
Doran's
getting
shield is also getting nerfed in
And
many
I-
respects.
I
Will
think he's going
this,
to be much better. Yes,
Okay.
he's going to be definitely much better after that.
all tentative, but still.
Right. I don't know. I really like Rumble. I've always liked Rumble. He can be pretty difficult to play.
With Rumble, it's he's a giant lane bully, and when he gets a kill, he gets ahead very quickly. And it is still the same here. If he can get that early, level 3 kill, level 4 kill, whatever it may be, he's going to get ahead. He can still push a lane against somebody like Mundo. and he can still push him in the tower, and he can still roam very well with his equalizer. Because Mundo doesn't have the resources to push back. No matter how much healing he's going to get off of Doran's shield, no matter how much healing he's going to get off of the defensive masteries. But
For the most part, he's just going to be farming at the turret.
But he is such a hard champion to play, and such a hard champion to understand how to properly manage heat, that you're not going to see him played except for at the highest tier competitive level and higher tier solo queue. Like if I went and tried to play him right now, Mundo would probably shit on my face because I don't know how to properly trade. I don't understand his damage. I don't understand how to properly use heat.
Well, you also have to think too that big part of Rumble is his ult, and you can get an awesome ult off in a team fight or whatever. The difference between that is, say the ult goes off and not that much happens. You're still there, you do AoE damage, but at the end of the day, if they have somebody like Mundo and it's late game, they have a late game Mundo.
Right.
He isn't moving for like anybody.
Yeah, but isn't the same kind of go for Yasuo? Except for Yasuo is that lane bully, right?
Right.
And can be that lane bully. Because Yasuo, you have to have that wombo combo to make him
Right,
super
like
powerful.
you can't. I don't think you can compare them like straight across in a line like that because you're picking the champions for different reasons. If you don't need the wall, Rumble's like the wall that Mundo ends up being.
Is right.
Rumble's a way better like pick for your team then. You know, but if your team needs a wall, you're not going to pick Mundo to, or I'm sorry, you're not going to pick Rumble to be a tank.
Well, and
so
for a solo queue thing though, like again, it comes down to the popular picks right now are a lot of the same stuff they're running the LCS, and most of the people are running tanks, and some
sure,
people
I get
running
what the meta is. I'm just saying that in the situations where, like, yeah, I mean, he has his issues and everything with laning and everything. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't, just because he's not Mundo doesn't mean you can't fit, like, Rumble doesn't fit. If your team already has a tank, you know, then all of a sudden Rumble's a completely different consideration. If your team needs a tank, you really shouldn't be looking at Rumble in the first place.
Right.
So, I mean, my question then is, like, because I am the worst Rumble player in the world. So
I don't know, I'll
contribute
challenge you
much
to
to
that
the situation.
I actually really like playing Rumble. Like, when I don't get to support and I have to play something else, and if I'm in top lane and sometimes mid lane, I do actually pick Rumble.
That mid lane Rumble.
So how do you? What's the best
it.
way to set up your masteries and itemize in the current meta? Then it's all good and well to say they're going to tune down Doran Shield, but this guy's got to deal with the fact that Doran Shield is what it is at the moment. So what would be some suggestions for dealing with the current meta as Rumble? Like,
I would do a mixed
Just the
mastery
masteries.
page. I would go down
But like a 13-17 type thing.
17-13 maybe. Yeah,
I
or
love
13-17,
I love
yeah.
17.
Yeah, I definitely haven't played Rumble in Season 4 on
Right.
Summoner's Rift. So
I wouldn't go all the way down because Rumble, like you said, he's not a tank. He's not going to be that guy who's taking all that damage up front, and he's not. I mean, he's supposed to be in the fray, but he's not supposed to be taking damage. So he needs somebody in front of him that is going to be that wall. With that said, you still need to be able to survive in lane. So running something like a 17-13 or 13-17 or whatever it may be, where you're getting a little bit more off the offensive masteries, is going to allow. But you also have to think that when he was powerful, he got free magic pen by having being 9 points deep in the offensive tree, and now you have to go 20 points deep or 17 points deep or something.
Much deeper.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's 20 points. I think you actually have to go
And-
20
and
points
it's not
deep.
quite as much as it was as well.
Right.
and that's
He's now
affected a
86%
lot of
instead of 8.
champions. Like Lucian's in a much worse spot just because he lost a lot of the armor pen that he had. He also got hit on his the base damages on Q, but
And the
like,
range
he's in a
on it,
much
yeah.
worse position than he was at the end of Season 3.
Right. Yeah, things like that make it hard to play Rumble. But like for the sake of the argument, I would do something like 17-13, and I would probably run a little bit of spell vamp in his masteries, like 4% or whatever it was, off of some off the quints armor.
I would
obviously.
I would think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I would run some armor, and maybe that fill that last one with either flat health or move speed, whatever you want to do. Move speed isn't a bad idea because he has to get in and get out. And other than that, it's hard to say because I think that he's another one of those champions that could do really well with mixed pen off the reds because he is doing auto attacks, but at the same time he's doing tons of magic damage, so probably M pen is going to end up doing more for him to blow through creeps,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, if you decide
I,
something,
feel like,
you want
I
to
guess the reason you don't want to do his auto attack animation is just so wonky. He's so
awful.
he's difficult to last hit with because
Yes, he
his auto attack animation is just wonky.
right, just play Just play Mundo or Shyvana or
I don't know.
Trundle. Let's forget it. No,
I like
He'll be better with the masteries and Doran's changes.
I think we'll come back to this when they start making those changes we started talking about, because we'll definitely talk about what champions are going to pop up in the top lane at that point, and Rumble's going to be one of those.
Just wait.
We could do a rampant speculation show.
Yes, I love those. They're my favorite episodes.
We were
Rumble's gonna
right,
be the
but
greatest.
we were also mostly wrong.
Yeah, but Trinity Force called it. That's all that matters.
I'm the one that called XDG first place before the season began. So yeah, I'm looking real good here.
Hey, we say 10 wrong things. As long as we get one right, we're right. So
That's
fuck
right.
it.
That's it.
That's all you got to do.
Talk it up.
All right, Matt, you're up, and this is the last question for this episode. What are scenarios where you should or should not be absolutely split pushing? I know sometimes split pushing is valuable and works. I was just wondering if you could help clear up when are better times than others. Are you laughing at me, Dom, again?
I am laughing at you. Adam went through a phase where he was convinced the thing that he should always be doing forever and ever, amen, was split push. It didn't matter what else was going on. Didn't matter whether or not he had ward coverage. It was the only thing he was going to do was split push. Didn't even matter what champion he was playing. He was going to split push.
They're
And
not
so,
lying.
Call that the
I'm
hot shot
laughing
GG meta.
Yep, that's CLG. That's
That is
CLG.
what I'm laughing at, yeah.
When should you not split push? When you should be grouped with your team. When should
Yeah.
you split push? When you can make it back to your team quickly.
Yeah.
If you don't have ward coverage in the enemy jungle and you're split pushing, you maybe should reconsider that decision.
Yeah. You shouldn't be split pushing when. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
No, talk. Go.
Okay.
Oh, I was just gonna say you shouldn't be split pushing when your team is not. The rest of your team is not pushing itself. Like if you along a very very long lane, you just asking to be killed, even with wards. So you need to make sure that your team's on board with the fact that they need to
Now
keep
I
up
wanna
the
play
pressure.
Tryndamere.
Now, on the reverse of that, if you're huge and they have to send two people to deal with you, or you're gonna shove down the turret and the one person that they sent to deal with you earlier, they can't handle you. It's great to be able to split push, because if they send a couple people to deal with you, your team should be able to 4v3 them at a turret and
Right.
take objectives and a couple kills. That being said, you should be split pushing basically if the other team has a ton of great wave clear and you have like no siege potential and you need multiple lanes pushing, because if y'all just group mid, you're not going to get anything out of it, or it's just going to be a giant standstill.
Well,
You should-
think of yourself kind of like a super minion, and the fact that when you take an inhibitor down, you automatically go to another lane and you let that
Right.
super minion take care of itself, because they have to go deal with that super minion or that character at some point. So if you're top lane, for example, and this is where it got me in trouble a lot, and I've gotten a lot better at it because now I can recognize when I need to do it.
Because you've been yelled at.
Because I've been yelled at 100 times. But if there's a let's say there's a 9-man, I'll say 9-man team fight at Dragon, or even an 8-man team fight at Dragon, and top laner had just gone back, you can start split pushing down top lane hard. Or if the enemy team has sent everybody to Dragon, and you guys can stall it long enough that you continue to split push top lane down and get a tower for it, either first tower or inner tower, that's when split pushing starts to work. Shen, and this people think, well, I'm playing Shen, I have to split push, and you don't always need to be split pushing. Only start split pushing if you can respond to what is going on in a timely manner, and you understand what is going to happen.
That's really what it is. Like, you got to know what your team is capable of handling without you there. And if you know that your team will get obliterated in the even 4 seconds that you're not part of a team fight, that's like, to me, that's almost reason enough to not split push, because like you're going to lose the game. It doesn't matter what objective you get. If the rest of your team gets killed, you're going to lose that game pretty quickly after.
My favorite reason to not split push, and this happens all the time, you can see this all the time in solo queue. If your team is really ahead, like you're up 3 dragons and 10 kills, there is no reason for you guys to just not group and win the game.
Yeah, right. You might as well.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, it happens
Like,
a lot in
That I don't like. Hotshot GG tweeted about this the other day. He said he thinks the difference between gold players and diamond players is that diamond players are much more aware of the fact that they should be ending games as quickly as possible, whereas like gold and lower tier players,
bronze players or silver players yell at us because people won't group and end the game.
gold and lower tier players are more likely to try and farm for their big items because I think they need those items to carry.
Ah, right.
Yep.
I know. I saw a diamond game today. Dyrus was playing. They ended it in 16 minutes or something. because everybody was so far ahead. And he types in all chat, sorry for the game. I can't, sorry for the 0-8 Elise or whatever it was. But they understood what needed to happen. And bottom lane was all the way in top lane at 15 minutes, pushing down the inhib. That type of thing. Like bottom
And in
lane
a way,
understood.
if you're winning that hard, and that's almost mercy on the other team because you're just kind of putting them out of their misery.
Right. Well, and
So-
Yeah, but if you're on the other team, it does not feel good to be
No,
in that
not
game.
at all.
Like,
What
oh
is the-
god, we lost in 16 minutes. That's wow. I'm gonna quit this game. I'm just gonna uninstall.
There's a saying that I want to say I heard from Optimus Tom that was, when you're ahead, maybe it was Dom, I don't remember. Anyway, when you're ahead, you should try to get more ahead, right?
Yeah.
We said that. I've
I
said
think I
that.
usually
in the
say
past.
something like when you have the window of opportunity open, you want to like wedge it further open. You don't want to let it shut.
Yeah, same way to say it.
I
I think
think-
Tom had said it the other way.
I think some of the best games I've seen for that was when it was Fnatic versus Royal Club at last year's Worlds. Like, essentially, even when Fnatic was ahead, I'm pretty sure it's Royal Club, they basically got this tiny, minuscule window, and they just blew it right open. And they were closing out. It all of a sudden went from Fnatic being kind of a little bit ahead to Royal was like knocking down their base towers. And I think those games in that
Yeah.
semi were just, and they were just incredible. Just their. Not only their ability to actually do it, but their confidence to know that if they keep pushing this tower, they're actually going to take it down. They're going to take down the hip, and then they can push for the base. Where I think a lot of other people would just back out before that time. They get worried.
I mean, if
It's always a confidence thing as well.
If you can win, there's no reason to just waste time.
I know, I yelled at him. Just finish the game already. Stop playing with us. I just want to go play my next game. I understand what I did wrong this one. I lost landing phase. I get it. You've taught me my lesson. Woo. Let's go. So,
Yep.
I think we beat that one into the ground.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I need to remind people because we've grabbed some more listeners and we grabbed some more viewers as this started. Guys, don't forget to go check out ozlol.trinityforcepodcast.com because Lee, Carrot Colossus, the host of the OzLOL podcast, has joined up with the Trinity Force team and is now being sponsored by the Trinity Force podcast. So we will be hosting all of the podcasts on that website. You guys will be able to find the great feed.
Welcome to the family, baby.
That's right.
It's good to be a part of it. Group hug. Group hug.
And with what's great with this, because now he's gonna have so much more access to things that
Yeah.
not a lot of people. What I like about this, because we have access to a lot of things a lot of people don't have access to, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get more people out there and getting their products out there, and people that we feel are doing a fantastic job in the league community. We want them part of the network.
It's
So
a community. You might as well, take care of your own.
That's right.
Yep.
So thanks a lot, Lee. Thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Great to be
Yeah,
here
thanks.
anytime.
And that'll do it for episode episode number
Yeah,
133.
that's pretty much how it
Now it's
started.
got on the
Anyway.
blooper reel.
That's right. That'll do it for episode number 133 of the Trinity Force podcast. Don't forget to check out OzLOL podcast, like I said. If you guys are watching live, stick around. We're going to be answering listener questions within 2 to 3 minutes while I undo the top button on my shirt here. Other than that, thanks for
God.
listening, guys.
Is
We
it
will
that
see
time?
you next week.
Time to get loose.
Oh, baby. I've been waiting all my life.
Peace, guys.